Welcome to Tech Tips here. In today's video, you're going to learn about functions in Python. So let's get into it. So let's say in your Python program, you have a piece of code that repeats a bunch of times in your program. For example, you have like the green program where you can print hello. That's you get your name from study, right? And go like name. After that, you print f string or ease of playing variables, from lessons ago. Then after that, you do that. Now, if you run this program, hope my head doesn't want this. I'm on. It'll say, hello, my name, and I'm on. But it's very annoying to copy paste this throughout the whole entire code over and over again. And additionally, it's not very efficient because instead of using the function, which I'll talk about in a second, you have to go through this entire process over and over and over again. So, how can we fix that? Well, we did with functions. So, what exactly is a function in Python? Well, a function in Python is basically just a specific thing that a code can do, and you call it by a name. So let's say, for example, the input function. All it does is one thing, which is to get input from the user, and after that, you can do whatever you want with it. That's the only purpose of it. Now, in Python, you only ever want to give functions one purpose. You don't want to give them multiple purposes. This result, that will confuse you and other programmers. And second of all, it's not very smart to do it because you could just have two separate functions. And after that, let's say you want to use one of the abilities of the function, but not the other one. And now you have a function where there's two that combine. And after that, you have to make a whole entire function. It just removes that hassle altogether. So how do you make a function? First, you do the def keyword, which stands for define. That's that, you write your function name. Now, you should make your function name related to the type it does. For example, input, because, you get input. And for this code, I do greet name, because it's a greeting with your name. After that, after the name, you put in parentheses. And this is for input into the function. I'll tell you what that's for later. Then, as that, you can put your code after the colon. After that, you can put that here. And notice how in for loops and while loops, it also has that same indent in it to show that all this is part of the function right here. Now, we cannot just run this program just like this. You need to actually call it a function. Just because you wrote it here doesn't mean that it will run by itself. What you need to do is call it. So you do the name function, read name. After that, you put parentheses right here. Now, on one thing. So in Python, you'll see on this editor that you get one of these yellowish arrows right here because you put it too close to it. And the reason for that is because of something called pep8. It is a formatted document in Python that tells you how to format your code in Python. For example, in Python, you always want to put any other code 2 lines away from another function. And after that, you always want to put one new line at the end of every code. Now, that's not very important in Python. It just makes your code look better. And honestly, I advise you to follow these practices as it makes your code a lot more readable than just bunching up together. So let's run this code. As you see, it's the same thing, except now you should call it, instead of this whole entire code here, we just call it by just one line right here. Now we can make this code even more efficient with inputs into the function right here, the parentheses. Now instead of asking to get a variable x and input for a name, we can just do that with the function right here. So, inside here, we can put a thing here, or as I'll call it, a variable for now, name. Now, this name is part of this function. And now this function will expect the input from the person, whoever they call it. So here's how it works. You'll tell what the name is, then after that, you put in what you want it to be. For example, read name Amal. In the code, it will take that name, it will sign it as a mod, it will sign it as name. That's that, it use that as a variable just in this function. So it's not I'll use throughout the whole entire code is used specifically just in that function. So as you can see, name, and also we don't need the parentheses here because as you can see, is actually the variable, so you don't need any of that. Instead, you can just have this. Now, if I run this again, it will be hello, I'm on. And as you can see, instead of having 3 lines, we have 2 lines. It made it that much more efficient just by asking for input from the function right here. This is how you do functions in Python. We will expand on this a lot more with object-oriented programming, which is one of the most, how do you describe it? Like one of the most prominent features in Python is OOP, object-oriented programming, and functions are part of that. We'll talk about more in another video, in classes and more of those stuff. See you in the next video.